Good evening, viewers, and greetings. We are very, very glad to be alive, and we are glad to have an opportunity to use this medium to share with you pertinent information. Welcome to Full Disclosure here on Tobago Updates. And I am your host, Secretary Terrence Baines. And we are just glad that we have this opportunity. We have a responsibility to share with you information that we believe is pertinent to our leadership here in Tobago, information that is truthful. In fact, our theme for tonight's program is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Responding to some statements made a few days ago by the minority leader, and we will also deal with some other matters and so on. But my guest tonight, she has become a popular feature. I remember when I used to listen to the American Top 40 with Casey Kasem. You will see a hit from coast to coast. We are favored to have with us again Assistant Secretary Sutika Williams Orr, and we just want to say good night, ma'am.
Good night, sir.
How are you? How are you?
I am. Today was not one of the better days.
Yes, I know. Plymouth has been thrown into mourning for the loss of another life, and that is always such a gut-wrenching thing.
And you know we are like a dry peas tree. When you touch one,
yes,
we all shake.
Yes. And you know, somebody sent me the video. I don't normally look at those things, in all honesty. I really don't. And I just looked at it, and it just took you in a different place to see how the society has descended into an abyss of violence, and human life has very little value, and so on. That we are trusting that the perpetrators, are found. I mean, you can't bring back somebody, who's the victim of that kind of violence. But we have to keep praying and trusting that we see that justice is served in this matter. Well, we have some pertinent matters to discuss tonight. I want to start by having you explain to the viewing public, what is your role in this administration? What do you do? What do you do?
Well, the official title is Assistant Secretary in the Office of the Chief Secretary with responsibility for public administration, planning, and labor. So work issues, planning department, and the labor department.
Right.
That is as my area.
Right.
It's not isolated to just the Office of the Chief Sec. I help in all the other divisions where the expertise is needed. Right.
So nobody can say that you're barging in, you're out of place, or anything like that when you're dealing with work-related issues that are in and around the THE.
No.
You're doing your job.
I do my job, and I'm good at what I do.
Right. And the reason why I'm saying that, it is because I saw a Facebook exchange arising out of comments from the minority leader in the last couple of days or so about officers in his office not being paid and so on. And of course, different ones jump into the conversation, and one of the officers working in the minorities office made the comment that the assistant secretaries he was talking about, bully yourself into the mix and so on. So it was important for us to make the point that you were actually doing your work. You understand? So we want to start from there. That it is an attempt to try to speak ill as per normal, and to try to use these things to bring down the administration, or in their minds to find everything that they can possibly find with all the other negatives that are in the space. to attack the administration and to put all these negative connotations and feed the public with inaccurate information. So we want to see how we can bring some semblance of sanity to what has been taking place and to bring some truth into the space. Hence, we have your good self here.
Well, I'm here.
Yes. So let's start. Yes.
I myself listen and read in social media, and you heard it on the radio and so on, that the minority leader was very much concerned, and he ensured that the public was aware that his staff has not been paid since December. Now, we're not going to start there. I believe in background. Let's go back and come forward.
Okay.
So I want the public to understand what the staffing at the Office of the Minority Leader is all about.
Right.
Now, in October 2005, the Executive Council, by Executive Minute 449, agreed to the creation of 3 offices for the Office of the Minority Leader.
Okay.
Those offices were 1 position of research officer, 1 office of secretary/office manager, and 1 position of messenger/cleaner.
Okay.
2005. Now, that continued until 2017.
Okay.
All right? Remember, there was a period there when there was no minority.
Right.
So in 2017, apparently, the discussion came up that those 3 offices were insufficient to satisfy the administrative and other needs of the Office of the Minority Leader.
Right.
The then clerk of the Assembly and the then chief administrator apparently worked out an interim arrangement. 2, the chief had gave approval for an office of research specialist, business operations coordinator, hospitality attendant/cleaner, driver, courier, right? Now, the minority, the election was in 2017. This was not dealt with until 2019.
Okay.
All right? And I have some documentation to show the public that the chief administrator, the then clerk of the house, gave instruction to the staff saying, after discussion with the chief administrator, this approval was given.
Okay.
All right? So our technical person is going to put those up for the public to see.
To see.
Right?
Right.
Clearly, after discussion with the chief administrator on the morning of 24th of April 19, a decision was taken to approach the Executive Council to adopt this, right? Those offices.
Right.
And of course, the salaries were there and so on.
Right.
Unfortunately, could we have the others? Right, we see here business operations coordinator. What is important there is that there was a discussion with the chief administrator. The clerk of the assembly did not ride solo in this.
Right.
Good? However, you see it says there, a decision was taken to approach the Executive Council. That didn't happen.
Right.
Those interim arrangements were never formalized by the Executive Council.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Fast forward to there we have research specialists, all right, salary and allowances.
So these that we are seeing were the offices that came out of the conversation between
the then clerk and the then chief administrator. He said, listen, we're going to put this in place and then an approach will be taken to the Executive Council to formalize this. Good?
Right.
So you have that structure.
Right.
So this would supersede what was the decision that was taken in 2005.
Okay, got
Good?
you.
Something better, salaries better,
Right.
and probably this will work well in the Office of the Minority Leader. Fast forward to, well, of course, January 2021, the 6-6, there was no minority.
Right.
Although some people thought they were the majority and others were the minority, but not official, not legal. So
well,
we leave it at that.
Normally 6-6 means 6-6, you know what.
There was no no Office of the Minority Leader.
Right.
So that existed until the election of 6 December 2021. 14-1, of course, there is a minority.
Right.
And we know that the swearing in and appointment of officers took place.
All right, before you go further, so up to the point of the 6-6, this arrangement was not formalized.
Was not formalized. There was no approval.
Right. Okay.
Now, I can't say whether the note was taken to the Executive Council and it was rejected. I cannot say.
Right. But there's no evidence.
There is no evidence
Right.
of it being taken
Right.
to the Executive Council and being formalized.
Right. So, and even if they were going to action it, there must be a reference to this Executive Council note.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Got you.
So fast forward to 2021 and the swearing in of a minority leader. Now, there is where Secretary Baines, I looked at the whole scenario and I wondered whether it was destined to be a clandestine operation. And I'll tell you why. There is a clerk of the assembly, there is a chief administrator.
Yes.
There is no evidence to show that the chief administrator was brought into the mix.
Okay.
The hiring of staff at the Office of the Minority Leader, from all the documentation shown and conversation with the clerk, revealed that the clerk did her own thing.
Right.
Now, I can't say whether she had a discussion with the minority leader and she guided him or he did his own thing. But I will tell you what happened. The swearing in, as I said, took place December 9th, December 10th, 2021. Nobody, or let me say, there is no document to show that the chief administrator nor the Executive Council was aware that staff was recruited to staff the Office of the Minority Leader. Right? Now, you cannot deny the minority leader staff.
I understand.
That is not questionable. We're not questioning that at all. But apparently, there was some decision to hire staff for the Office of the Minority Leader on a short-term basis.
Wait, before you go there, so what obtained during the time, like Dr. Faith and you know
what I showed you there,
yes,
the one from 2019, right? 2019, that existed until January 2021.
Okay.
Those four, those were the four positions that were never formalized by the Executive Council.
So can that be a contributor to perhaps the way the office of the then minority leader was treated because it was never formalized?
Well, I can't say. Right.
Yeah.
But apparently, the clerk decided to take that route. And I assume in discussion with the minority leader, they would have to say whether they spoke or not. I don't know if the minority leader on his own decided what offices he would like to have. Well, let me say to start with. Or whether the clerk advised him that this is what you can get because this is what existed up to January 2021. All right? Now, let me skip to last week, Thursday, the 2nd of February. there is going to be a review of the org structure of the office of the minority leader. There is a draft note that is engaging the attention of the Executive Council. But because of what is contained in that note, I had to get some information to satisfy or to corroborate what is in that note.
Right.
I asked the chief administrator to set a convener meeting with the clerk of the assembly and myself. That took place last Thursday. And it was at that meeting that I became aware that the staff at the office of the minority leader was not being paid.
Okay.
Right? Let me back up. Because of what is contained in the draft note, I asked the clerk for the authority on which her decision to give approval for the payment of staff rest. She said she took that upon herself, right? That was her decision. She recommended, she approved. Fine.
Is that normal? Is that...
Well, I don't know.
No, I mean, if the reason why I'm asking it, I'm not trying to be facetious or anything, because if the authority for these engagements should be ratified or authorized, rather, by the Executive Council.
But it didn't even get to the chief administrator.
But that's what I'm saying.
There is no documentation to show that.
Right.
Right?
So on what authority, one, do you authorize or give blessings to these positions?
Self.
And then secondly, to your staff, the people in your administration, to pay the people?
Self. So I asked what were the terms and conditions under which they were employed. And I was told short-term basis. I said, but there is a circular that was issued in 2018 from the Office of the Chief Administrator, which guided short-term employment, 6 months, whatever, and so on. So I asked whether that got to the Chief Administrator and so on. No. All right. I asked whether those members of staff are still employed and are still working on a short-term basis. And I was told there and then that she doesn't know if they're working, but payment has stopped. I said, payment has stopped. And I asked her whether that was conveyed to the minority leader. Yes, was the response. So I asked whether she can forthwith submit to the chief administrator a copy of the documentation sent to the minority leader advising of the reason why payment of salaries to his staff has ceased. And she said there was no documentation. I said, but how can you treat the office of the minority leader like that? What do you mean there was no documentation?
Because he was paid, they were being paid
and she
before.
said she called.
Yes.
I said, but that is unacceptable.
Right.
And I am not believing that. So please forward forthwith to the chief administrator a copy of Secretary Baines, up to a little while, the documentation cannot reach the desk of the chief administrator.
Right.
I contacted the chief administrator because I said to the clerk that should be sent before the end of the day. Now, this was last Thursday, the 2nd of February. So when the minority leader came on the 6th of February, you could know how disgusting and hurting that was.
Right.
Right? So when I recognized that no documentation was sent to the chief ad, I asked the chief ad to obtain from the clerk the letters that were sent to each employee, each member of staff in the office of the minority leader when they assumed duty, saying, outlining the terms and conditions of the employment.
Right.
And the chief administrator was told no such documents exist.
But how, I mean, in we understand that is commonplace. So how can you have people on the payroll and you've been paying them before?
But let me show you some documents here. Now, before we show the documents, when I ask about the authority for the commencement of the payment of salaries or for the hiring, the clerk said that she was a participant in a meeting, and at that meeting, approval was given for the hiring of the staff with effect from the 13th of December 2021. Now, 9th and 10th, swearing in, appointment to offices and so on. The persons the members of staff at the office of the minority leader, I think except for one person, assumed work on the 13th of December. And she said to the chief administrator and myself that a meeting took place prior to the 13th. So I asked her, well, on what date did the meeting take place?
Right.
Because the swearing in was over a 2-day period. The chief secretary got married on the 12th. And on the 13th, the chief secretary and myself visited, we were on the road all day, visiting each department under the office of the chief secretary. So I asked her if the meeting took place on the 11th, because that was the only window.
Right.
And then she conceded that no meeting took place. Don't do me that, Secretary Bates.
Right.
Don't do that to myself, nor to the chief administrator.
Right.
Our offices deserve better than that. Okay? So, apparently the members of staff started work on the 13th of December. But what is curious is that the letters of offer made to these individuals by the minority leader is dated the 7th of February 2022.
Hold on. So, hold on. Right. So, according to the narrative of the clerk, they began work on the 13th of December 2021. Right? Now, in a normal place, you are supposed to receive a letter of offer before you begin and all that. And that should be lodged somewhere that you can scrutinize public document.
But if the offer was not made the 13th, it could have been made the same day. Because remember, the full responsibility for the recruitment and selection of staff for the office of the minority leader is solely the purview of the minority leader, right? He does that.
Right.
Good? But could we have the letters of offer, right? Here we have one, you see the date, the 7th of February 2022. Good? And this is the offer. But even if they assume work on the 13th, the minority leader should have been advised or guided that, listen, because he may have inadvertently forget that he has to do a letter of offer and he just allowed the people to assume.
Okay.
Let's say he's not
Right.
HR
an
expert and there was nobody there to guide him.
Right.
We could go with that.
Okay.
But that letter of offer should have reference something before our conversation that took place so and so. Right? When I offered you, or when an offer of employment as so and so was made to you. This letter or this missive is now to formalize that previous conversation or action. That is what should have taken place. So they assume on the 13th, and the letter of offer is the 7th of February. And then you see the documentation, the next set of documents, please. In the documentation, that on the right. So let's look at this. You see, the clerk of the assembly is giving approval for the employment of someone. Look at the period. It's a 6-month period, right? The 3rd, this person started on the 3rd of January to the 2nd of July, all right? So, I don't know whether the minority leader himself decided, you know, we now in this thing, let me offer the staff, you know, a 6-month short-term employment to see how they're working, a sort of probationary period. I don't know. I don't know if this was his own doing. I don't know if this was the doing, if he was advised by anybody at the Assembly Legislature.
But let me ask a question. Does the minority office have the legal right to employ people on short term?
But I don't know why it was done in the first place. There is nothing that binds the employment contract for anybody at the office of the minority leader to a 6-month. Okay. There is nothing that binds that. There is nothing. So that is why I'm saying I don't know if the 6-month period was solely at the discretion of the minority leader. He said, well, listen, I'm offering you 6 months. Right. That may be, you know, probably he's using that as probation. I don't know. Right. But there is nothing that says that the employment period for any member of staff at the office of the minority leader must be 6 months or it must be on short term. Right. Good? Right. It could have been for the 2 years, for the 3 years, whatever. If there is need for any change, any additional creation of post, upgrade, that can be done, right? So there, as I say, there is no binding arrangement for 6 months. Okay. So they start December. The 6 months ended in June, apparently. And there is no documentation at the Assembly Legislature to say or to show that the minority leader offered his staff a further 6 months employment, a further 3 months, right? But what was even a display of incompetence is that even if approval was given for the engagement of the staff for a 6-month period, the clerk failed to issue letters of approval of employment to the staff. Each member of staff should have had a letter saying that by virtue of the acceptance of an offer of employment from the minority leader, I advise that approval has been given for your employment on whatever the period is, right? You quote the period, the basic terms and conditions of your employment are. Each employee should have had that in his or her. That is a display of incompetence.
But then one would think as well that even you, the employee, because you would need to have some kind of documentation to substantiate, or to that which you're doing. I mean, who does that? This is in public service. Who does that?
I don't know. So the 6-month period ends, and the draft note to the Executive Council found its way to the Chief Administrator and myself long after the 6 months period ended. So all who are talking about bullying don't have a clue of what is taking place. So let that go by, right? I have not seen, or it has not been brought to my attention, any further letters of offer by the minority leader to his staff, knowing that the initial 6-month period has ended. I have not been shown or provided with any approval issued by the clerk of the assembly to say that approval has been given for further employment from whatever the day was, the 13th of June,
Yes.
and continuing, whether it's for another 3 months or whatever. That was not done. So the workers, the employees, the staff members at the Office of the Minority Leader apparently continue to submit timesheets at the end of each month saying that they work, and they are paid without any approval.
Wow.
Given anyway for the employment. No letter of offer. If it was done by the Minority Leader, it has not been brought to my attention or to the attention of the Chief Administrator. No approval for a further 6 months, because if it's June and they got paid until December, there should have been an approval for a further 6 months.
Right.
Because at the meeting that was held last week, when the clerk said to me that they're no longer being paid and they were paid up to December, I said, but you have carried them beyond 1 year. Therefore, short term does not exist here.
Right.
You have taken them into the realm of fixed term contracts.
Right. Short term is about 9 months, max.
Right. You have taken them into the realm of fixed term contracts. And after 12 months, you're going to call the Minority Leader to say to him that his staff can't get paid?
Yeah, I mean,
how could you?
Yeah. I mean, it has some things, you know, them senior people say it are more in the mortar than the pestle. Because I mean, this is not a junior person talking about you in the public service.
Other correspondence to show?
Yes.
No, not this one. Right? So you see here, Business Operations Coordinator, started on the 13th of December 2021. This is the acceptance. This is dated the 13th of December, right? I will report for duty on the 13th. Look at the dates of offers here. Right? We went through that.
Right.
But let's go to where the approval was given.
I mean, it's just
That's not it.
Jason, I see your comment here. I see what you're asking.
All right. On the 9th of February 2022, the HRO 1 penned a minute to the clerk asking for the employment of an individual as cleaner up to the 2nd of July, for another individual as business operations coordinator from the 13th of December 2021 to the 12th of June 2022. Another person as research specialist, and all of them said on short-term employment. 13/12 to 12/6, and another person as hospitality attendant. But even more than that, the clerk took the liberty of even expanding the staff, the cadre, by adding another position of cleaner.
Okay, and that brought the cadre up to 5?
5, right? Expanded it. Good. So the non-payment of salary, unfortunate as it is, to the staff members at the Office of the Minority Leader, was not an act of victimization or maliciousness by the executive or the chief administrator. It was simply clear-cut incompetence. Right? Do what is right. do what is right. Because after 12 months, you allow them to work 12 months.
Right.
The latter 6, without any letters of offer from the minority leader on file, and without any approval for the employment, whether it was issued by the clerk or by the chief administrator. Nothing.
But are you able to see what triggered the stopping of the payments?
She didn't say. All she said, because I asked her, said, you must give the minority leader a reason.
Right.
We don't have crazy people walking around here.
Right. But we are not paper trail for some of the more simple stuff either way.
Right? And to add insult to injury, you call him. Without documentation, if there is a pertinent reason why the payment of salaries must stop, the minority leader should be properly apprised.
But he's a man always talk about documents, and he always have documents. How it is that he himself.
Let me forget about the documents. You see how some of these documents are addressed, how they're structured. So let me forget about the minority leader and crafting the documents. Forget about that. Let me forget about that.
I'm just saying that he always seems to be a man who always have documents to substantiate everything. You understand? How could you not have a paper trail for the people that working in your office? Because he always has documents.
Sometimes you don't even know your own business. Right? So that is where we at. But as I said, there is a draft note before the Executive Council. The Executive Council will give approval to whatever is struck. And let me tell the minority leader, they like, according to the old people, trotting in your face and said that this size, say, let we fix it. No, we said, let we fix this. But I want to tell him, all of this is in the fixing.
Yes.
Because we're going to fix it.
Yes.
Because he's going to stay there for a little while. So we're fixing it so that he's going to be comfortable on that side.
Indeed.
Right?
Indeed.
We're fixing it.
Indeed.
No, it's ridiculous.
Yes. I mean, I think that right is right. You understand? Right is right. Anything, there's always the accusations and those who are like-minded that this is not done properly, this is not done, and they are presenting documents and all that kind of stuff. So I am at a loss, a matter of this gravity, that we cannot find paper trail for some of the simplest of things. You understand? And I don't even think I am prepared to exonerate him to make it look like, well, he didn't know what's going on. Yeah, he's an intelligent man. You understand?
But you have persons with the HR expertise all around.
Sure.
If you need help, I mean, it's not political help where I'm going to help him to gain points. But he could call and ask.
Yeah.
I ain't going to help him politically. He's not going to get that help.
Right is right.
Right?
I mean, right
but
is
this.
Right. Yes.
Right? Say, ask.
But how could you not have references to describing the positions, describing and all that? How could you not have these
because
things?
Let me tell you, when the minority leader selected his employees and the clerk of the assembly was so advised, forget what the length of the employment is. The employees should have been sent letters, or even before the staff was recruited, the minority leader should have been provided with job specs, right?
Sure.
If they're available, because like the business operations coordinator, that is a standardized position. So you have that, right? You say, well, listen, this is what it is. If your person satisfied, that is your business.
Right.
But this is what it is.
Right. So the position is clear.
Right.
Whoever he chooses, that's his prerogative.
That is his prerogative.
Yes.
You can't delve into that, right? Nobody could delve into that.
Agreed.
Good. We're not crossing that border at all.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
So each person should have had that. And when the 6 months was coming to an end, a sharp HR person or the clerk herself or
Yes.
whoever is responsible at the office of the minority leader should have quickly responded with new letters of offer
Yes.
and so on. We should not have been in this position.
Right. Right.
And even if an error was found, you cannot correct the error by denying the employees their salary. You can't correct the error by that.
Right.
It makes it worse because this now delves into realm of legality and law of employment and that kind of
An
thing.
accusation of the administration as being culpable in
And
this
you
thing.
know, prior to this, the THA wasn't good. Prior to December 6, 2021, the THA wasn't good at winning cases, especially when it comes to employment. They weren't good at that,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But
yes.
it is, as I said, a display of incompetence. I don't know if the fact that it wasn't in the open, it was supposed to be a clandestine operation. I don't know. I don't know who advised whom, right? There is nothing to say that the minority leader acted on his own by offering short-term good. I can't see.
Right.
Because
No, nobody can plead ignorance in this thing. Because this stuff, some of this stuff is basic.
It is.
It's basic stuff.
But why, I am still wondering, why a decision? Well, I guess two. Let me leave it at that. Why not a full term? Why not the 3 years?
Yeah.
Because there is nothing standing in the way of that offer. Nothing standing in the way of that offer.
Right.
Good. Even if you are not sure of how people would work, you can build into their contracts the probationary period.
Right.
So you do the appraisal
course,
and that
of
kind
course.
of thing. You either terminate if work not up to par, you
Right.
extend probation, you treat with that. Contract law is contract law. Employment law is employment law. There is information all around.
Right.
Good?
Right. You know what? It's amazing how when you're talking sensible thing, what the time does fly. But I know your thoughts on it. There are some images that the minority put up about his office, and he's blaming the administration for the condition of his office and that kind of thing as well. What are your thoughts on the matter regarding the office and that kind of stuff?
Well, that matter I would not have been a part of that. But what I could tell you, what is passing strange for me, is that those images were aired on Monday, the 6th. Right? I think it was the 6th. But I am in possession of a letter from the office of the minority leader. When I tell you the minority leader, need a lesson. And the letter is dated February 6th, 2023. The very Monday.
Yes.
It's addressed to the office of the Chief Secretary, Chief Administrator's Office, Tobago House of Assembly, Administration Complex, 62 to 64. Could you put it up for me, please? 62 to 64 Calder Hall Road, Scarborough, Trinidad and Tobago. And it's signed by the minority leader. And it reads, in response to your letter dated January 18th, 2023, pertaining to issues being experienced with the building which currently houses my office, I have assigned Mr. Marilyn David and Ms. Tiffany Anderson as representatives to attend the meeting on the date to be set. It's signed by the minority leader.
Right.
No. The public utterances were on February 6th. This letter is dated February 6th. And it is in response to a letter.
Right.
I don't know if it's from the Chief Secretary or from the Chief Administrator, because I'm not going to allow him to confuse me. But there is a letter dated January 18th. Almost a month later, and the letter of January 18 pertains to issue
Right.
been experienced with the building which currently houses my office.
Right, right.
And almost a month later, you're now saying to either the chief secretary or the chief administrator that I'm now assigning two persons as representatives to me.
Yes, something.
Deceptive.
I mean, if it deceptive is an understatement, it is an understatement.
Right.
It's an understatement because this is clearly an attempt at mischief.
But you can't make mischief with them things. It ain't making sense. You cannot make mischief. Because I'm advised that as the issues come up, they are treated with. I think there is an OSH report, the landlord is probably involved, and so on. Right? So I don't know if there are new issues. But clearly since January 18th, by letter dated January 18th, the chief secretary has been saying, let us meet to treat with that issue. And February 6th, the minority leader responds to say, these people are going to represent this office on the date to be set. Right?
The same day that the images appear.
The same day. Why you want to do that?
Right.
Why you want to do that? Right? According to the Calypsonian, don't do that to me.
Yeah, right? I mean, you know,
But the thing about it, the staff will not be left out in the cold, will not be left in the limbo. As long as they worked for January, they will be paid. And the org structure for the office of the minority leader will be dealt with once and for all. Okay. If any time down the road the minority leader thinks that the staffing is inadequate, the right is his to say, well, listen, I need a review. The right is his. No, I can't speak for the executive council whether the executive council will accede or not. I can't speak for that. Good.
Right.
But don't try to give the impression in the public that somebody wicked. We leave evil and wickedness other sides.
For others, yes.
For others. They could take it up if they want. But you don't do that. Don't give that impression. That this was a deliberate act of victimization against the members of your staff. No, that is not true. Good. A lot of red flags, a lot of fouls, right? And it is what it is. And I will always say, total display of incompetence by a senior officer. Total incompetence.
I mean, in a case like this, I know that there are regimes that are set up, you know, for various officers, whether you're a contract officer, public servant, or whatever. If you run afoul with somebody rules, in a case like this, is this a case where disciplinary action can be taken against this officer?
That is in the remit of the chief administrator. I will not comment on that.
Okay, I got you.
I will not comment on that.
I got you.
That is for the chief administrator. The facts are known to the chief administrator, and if there is any breach, any contravention of any public service regs or so, that is solely under the purview of the thing. Because the only complainant there can be the chief administrator. Right? So I will not comment on that at all.
Got you. Well, you've been very busy this past week. That may be the understatement of the decade. You've been very busy. I mean, apart from doing this legwork and stuff, all that, I know you've been doing a lot of work with some of the divisions and so on and employment.
It's just guidance. Because Secretary Baines, we have fallen away a lot in the THA. We have fallen away. And something has to give. We have to try to get back on firm footing. Get back to where, at one time, it was a joy to work in the THA. Let us get back there I know I talk a lot about training and orientation and all that. That is the only way we can get back there. Right? Whatever demotivating persons from working now, we have to assess those areas of demotivation and inject some life into it and so on. But the THA was a great place to work, and it saddens, right? So we're going to get there. We're fixing that too.
Yes. And I mean, we certainly appreciate your work. Even those of us in the executive, you stand there as a guiding light. You know, one of the things that all of us respect you for is when it comes to the public service affairs. You know, cut no corners where that is concerned. You know, and we are very, very thankful that we have your mind, you know, in the executive to assist us and so on. And I think that a program like this is necessary. It is useful, you know, that we must, whatever we put out in the public space, you know, it must be truthful. It must reflect what really is. You understand? You know, I know that there are persons that every opportunity they get, they figure that they must aim their guns at the administration and so on, even if they have to fabricate stories. And I'm not talking about this specifically, but I'm talking in general, fabricate stories just to try and see if they could make their administration look bad and for whatever is their motivation. You understand? But we have to make sure that what we put in the public space is truthful, and the public will make the assessment of the information that we put before them. This is our responsibility. And so,
well, you know me, I would only put the truth out there.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth. That is how I worked. Right. And I'm too old to come off course now.
Right.
I hurt myself.
Yes. I mean, this has been a very informative show, and we trust that our viewers, that you have an appreciation for the show tonight. You can interact with the information. You come to your own conclusions based on what you have heard. I thought it was absolutely necessary, after the utterances that were in the space in the last few days, that we bring this story as we know the story to be in the midst. And these documents are, it's public documents, they're not private documents.
No, they're not.
You understand? So for verification, if you so desire, these are public documents. We are down to pretty much the end of the show tonight. Lady Sertica, on your this is your third appearance in a short space of time. When I said that you are hit from coast to coast, that was not just being facetious. While it is true that the things that you may have to share may not be appreciated by everyone, but truth is truth. You understand? And we are very glad that you were able to come and to share with us here on the show tonight. On behalf of the management of Tobago Updates, and myself and the team, by extension the entire administration, we want to thank you for joining us here tonight. I look on the live and I see the usual suspects are here.
Oh, forget them.
Yes, we have
an opinion is an opinion.
Yes, indeed. A senior religious leader said, opinions are like noses. Everybody has one. You understand? And then thing like Facebook and so on gives people power. When with the facet now where you can hide behind something that is not true, you can pick up profile.
The beauty about the thing is that none of them would be able to discredit me.
Right.
None.
Right.
I can stand the test anytime, any place. And I hope those who are the usual suspects and may have worked in the district office of the minority leader and are now in the minority office, I hope their dates of employment don't clash.
Right.
I hope they have not been overpaid, because there may be a need to repay. So I Nothing I say here is a fabrication.
Right.
Cannot be pulled down. I give truth, I give facts, and the public service is what I know, and what I know well.
Right. Right.
So it could stand any test. Don't fret for me.
Right.
A short but a talawa.
What do you want me to say?
A short but a talawa. I'm Idris's child.
Yes. Viewers, thank you for joining us. It's been another very good show. You all be safe. Take care of yourself. And we will come back again. The Lord allows us so to do. And we will have another show for you next week, God's willing. We bid you good night. Take care. God bless you. Bye-bye.